You weren't in Georgia, but I did a little karaoke last time.
Oh, yeah?
When I was there, yeah. So you might want to pick a song.
Yeah.
We'll go through. That's how we'll decide the nomination. Thank you, Tony.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Hello. Forget about it. Desert.
Very warm.
Would you give me a glass of water too? I don't have a lap dog. You know, I don't bring my lap dog with me, so would you get me a... It's supposed to be fun.
It is going to be fun.
It's supposed to be
That
fun.
works.
Yes, I'm kind of a journalist. I have a YouTube channel on Libertarian stuff.
Yes.
You're a journalist also?
I am, yes. I do a morning talk show
Nice.
in Springfield.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
News network covering statewide.
Take notes.
My name is Brian Lambert. I'm trading emails. She's one of those pads. It'd be simpler. Thank you.
Compliments of the hotel. And nobody's seen Joy yet? Shauna, I mean?
Shauna Sterling or Joy Waymeyer? Oh, Shauna, no, I haven't seen her.
I'm going to sneak back behind you.
I took the photos for it was next campaign. I did a lot of work.
Sorry about that. Last minute.
Thank you so much.
Nice.
Greg, there's a switch on your mic. You may want to turn that one on.
Is mine on?
You don't usually do the switch.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time.
Welcome to the 2016 Libertarian Convention Presidential Candidates Debate. If you could all take a seat and get ready. I know that from my own experience campaigning that there's a lot of work involved. I ran a statewide campaign where I had to go from Cairo to Rockford. And I'm going to tell you that's nothing compared to what these candidates have had to do as presidential candidates. I would like for you to start the evening by giving them all a hand for being here. Instead of me introducing them, I'm going to give them each an opportunity to introduce themselves, and we'll start at the far end. Mark, you each take 60 seconds to introduce yourself. I guess maybe I should really quickly clarify how this is going to work. We're going to give everybody questions. The moderators will take turns asking questions of the candidates. Then they will get 90 seconds to answer each question. Not all candidates will be answering each question because that would take a lot of time or we wouldn't have very many questions. But if any of you candidates decide that you would like to chime in on a subject that you weren't asked, if I move on to another subject or one of us is ready to ask another question of the other candidates, just raise your hands and say, I'd like a response. And you can get a 30-second response to that. But I only want to offer you 2 times to do that. Otherwise, this debate could go on forever. All right? So you get 2 response periods of 30 seconds if you just signal to us that you want to do that. All right, so for introductions, go ahead, Mark.
Good evening. I want to thank the Libertarian Party of Illinois for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and to see everyone here. I'm here for you. I want to express my admiration for each and every one of you for being engaged and being here and helping promote the cause of freedom in our country. I'm a physician, not a politician. I'm a practicing physician, an anesthesiologist at the Cleveland Clinic. As an anesthesiologist, I'm used to putting people to sleep one at a time. I have a different view of things. I didn't come to the Libertarian Party from the Democrats or Republicans. I was a dedicated, engaged, and well-informed non-voter living in Washington, D.C., growing up there. I first registered to vote 6 years ago at the age of 50. I thought all politicians were liars until I found a party of principle, and it's an honor to be here.
Hello, I'm Cecil Ince, and there's a bell. I hail from the state of Texas, but I'm living currently in Springfield, Missouri. I have a degree in acting and performing arts. I have been a professional transportation driver. I have basically been a regular worker. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a businessman. I'm not a former governor. I'm just a regular person. And that's something that needs to be done. I want to be a servant to the people, and I do that. And I do that today, but I would like to do that on a greater level and help unite this party under one libertarian banner.
So I want to point out that there's a lot at stake in this election. There's the real possibility of the Libertarian nominee being in the general debates, which would be a game changer. And there's no way that a third party wins unless we are in the general election debates. I'm an athlete, I'm an adventurer, I'm an entrepreneur, I have a terrific family, and I'm the former governor of New Mexico. So I think everybody up here is terrific. I just want you to know that I delivered. I really did. They called me the most dangerous politician in America when I served. The ACLU gave me the highest rating of anyone running in 2012 for civil liberties, and that included one of my heroes, Ron Paul. I mean, I found that to be terrific. I just want you to know that I've walked the walk. I've done it. Good government was easy. It wasn't hard.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm the youngest candidate running, but I'm the oldest, I think, in Libertarian years. I served as your volunteer coordinator in the year 2000, and I've had an incredible journey selling libertarian ideas every day for pretty much the last 10 years. And I've been successful as a libertarian, and I think that's important because we need someone who can articulate our message to the American people in a way that is principled, but in a way that they find appealing. And I've been able to do that successfully. I was inspired by Dr. Ron Paul in 2007. 12 of my friends gathered together for an activist group. We went in downtown Manhattan and we turned out 1,200 volunteers and $1 million raised for Dr. Ron Paul. Thank you, yeah. I was born in Independence, raised on a horse farm in Peculiar, just a short drive from a town called Liberty. Think of that what you will. But I love this country and I love the Constitution, and I think that I am unique amongst these candidates in that I can build us a national coalition of disaffected voters who are unhappy with the choices that we have. That's why I got into this race. I may be young, but I am not inexperienced. I helped to promote the governor on Fox Business, his campaign. I worked in 2008 directly on Bob Barr's campaign. I know what it takes to build coalitions. I think I can get us a little bit farther down the road, and I hope tonight I can convince you. Thank you very much.
My name is Derek Michael Reed. I'm from California. I'm an engineer, a patent lawyer, military scientist, a bullion banking finance market analyst, and a geopolitical analyst. I've analyzed the socioeconomic fabric of our society and devised a comprehensive solution set to solve the major systemic problems facing the country, coupled with a presidential pledge and presidential platform. I will appeal to 90% of Americans, and I will win the White House with or without a debate with the Democrats and Republicans. I am the only candidate before you now who has a prayer at winning, and if nominated, I will plant the Libertarian banner on the White House. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank each of you for coming. I know it's not easy to do this, having been in politics for quite a while. I have not always been in the Libertarian Party, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas. My name is Rhett Rosenquist Smith, and I chose to take my mother's maiden name, Rosenquist. My grandfather was not born in this country. He immigrated to the United States and became a judge in Texas. But on the issue of libertarians, I'm very interested in libertarians. About 2 years ago, I began to learn a lot more of the Libertarian Party and their principles, and it's kind of a curiosity. I mean, I guess I knew that they were around. I was certainly in other political parties, the Republican, the Democratic Party, even the Green Party. 4 years ago, I was a presidential candidate in the Green Party. And now I believe that there are some very key issues, and I hope we get to talk about that. Certainly, I want to talk about first freedom, which I say the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights is our first freedom.
Very good. And I'm going to ask our secretary, Jason Howard, to keep the time. We're going to be giving 90 seconds for each of these answers, and when they get close, just let them know. So, and before we move on, I want to introduce my co-moderators up here. I'm sure everybody recognizes Julie Borowski. She is an internet sensation. She caught my attention a couple years ago, and I'm really thrilled that she's joined us tonight. And also with us is Springfield mainstay and good friend of mine, Greg Bishop, who is the morning talk show host on WMAY and a reporter with the Illinois News Network. And I'm very happy that he's able to join us tonight. Okay, Julie, you get the first question, and why don't we start? Well, I'll let you choose, but Mark got the lead. Why don't we start it at Cecil?
Sure. So my first question is, to those who have never held political office, how are you qualified for the top office in America? Cecil first.
Well, is the question about constitutionally qualified? Because I am. And I've been a member of the Libertarian Party since 1996. Active in petitioning and all that. I've ran for office several times. I've lobbied in Jefferson City, Missouri, helped bring about libertarian legislation in Missouri, which actually reformed the Division of Family Services in the state of Missouri. I have been able to work with people that are elected. I have been able to reach out to people in the community. I've been a pro advocate for children with autism, my son having autism himself. You know, I'm about to work for the people. I'm not about to stand up in the White House and say, I'm going to be your ruler. I want to work for you, not be your ruler.
Well, I had never run for political office prior to becoming governor of New Mexico. I mean, I'd never even pounded in a campaign sign. I went and I introduced myself to the Republican Party 2 weeks before I announced. They said, we like you, we like what you've got to say, but you just need to know you'll never get elected, that it's not possible to come from completely outside of politics and get elected governor in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat. Well, what I pledged was just a common sense business approach to state government. Look, I'm this successful business guy. This is what I've done. I've grown a one-person handyman business to employ over 1,000 people. And I learned some things in business I think that are really important. One was sharing in the profits. It's just amazing what happens to the pie when you share in the profits and everybody pulls in the same direction. And another thing that I learned was hiring and firing. I've probably hired and fired more people than anyone you know. It's really easy to hire people. It's extremely difficult to fire people. I don't know of anything more difficult than firing people, but if you can't fire people, you end up bankrupt. The money ends up going out the back door, and I actually think that's why the public sector is dysfunctional, because you elect a whole bunch of people who have never hired and fired. They find it real easy to hire. They can't fire. And they hire people who've never hired and fired. I'm not singling out Obama, but this is really the single biggest factor why the private sector doesn't work.
Okay.
Let's make one thing abundantly clear. This was the question of people who have no experience in government.
Okay.
People who have spent their lives in government are the problem, okay? We need somebody who is outside the system. We need people who are independent, people who are don't have strings attached to them, people who are honest and who have integrity. You know, the founders wanted to be citizen statesmen. That's what they envisioned. Now, that is why they wrote the Constitution as they wrote it. 35 years old, natural-born citizen, because they perhaps knew that a 35-year-old man might come along, or woman might come along and shake the temple of power. And it is time for us to break the back of the two-party system. Now, I am the CEO of a small business. I pay wages and I pay salary. I've got to make my payroll just like any other CEO does. But I have proven that I have come from nowhere, a small farm in Missouri, and kicked down the doors of power in entertainment and in politics. And if you nominate me, I will do what I did to your national office in 2008, which many people will testify. I will turn this party into a powerhouse of rock star activism, and you will not soon forget the name Peterson in 2016. I promise you that.
All right. This next question is going to go to Mr. Reed, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Feldman. Starting with Mr. Reed, the Libertarian Party, of course, considered fringe. How do you anticipate, if you get the nomination, to capture the nation's attention without the assistance of the mainstream media?
I have devised strategic and tactical political plans to capture the White House. The Libertarian Party would be amazed. Let me give you a little peek. My solution set pledge appeals to 90% of Americans. I will end the corruption of the Federal Reserve, Congress. I will stop the wealth transfer from the 99% to the 1%. I'm going to need 12 Corps commanders, one of which is going to handle the occupiers, and we are going to go after them and explain why my candidacy will satisfy their basic needs. Imagine tens of thousands of occupiers on the streets of New York with signs, "Libertarians for the victory." I can bring victory to the party. I have managed engineering teams, legal teams, financial teams, and military teams successfully, undefeated in federal court litigation for 10 years, the best patent attorney in the country for 15 years. I am a 5 Sigma guy, 1 in 100,000. I know how to present the libertarian message to the general population to be appealing to them like a magnet. I guarantee victory in November.
And Mr. Smith, same question to you. How do you plan on capturing the nation's attention?
Yes, excellent question. And I think the Libertarian Party has already captured the nation's attention. It's a question of standing on our principles and values, and I hope that we share the values that I'm talking about first freedom, that those, I think, values enumerated in that in those 45 words, I think are the pinnacle of the American Revolution. And I think by standing on principle, that's where America should stand. Really, the President of the United States is not so much a businessman or an economic leader, or, you know, obviously the economy does much better under a free enterprise system. However, it's really about principles and values. And we have to stand up and say, as a world leader, that we're not going to tolerate any longer those around our partners and alliances around the world that blatantly undermine first freedom, that blatantly undermine freedom of religion, freedom of speech. These are some of our most important global partners. And when we abandon our own values, we're sowing the seeds of our own destruction. We reap what we sow. Look what happened on 9/11. Supposedly a strong ally, but who attacks us? Disgruntled Saudis. And today, we face that same dilemma. So we cannot separate radical Islamists, from moderate Islamists, all the people that would undermine first freedom in the First Amendment undermine us. And that's the crisis that we have in our world. Thank you.
Mr. Feldman, again, the question is, how do you plan on,
Feldman.
Dr. Feldman, thank you. How do you plan on capturing the nation's attention without the assistance of the mainstream media?
Back in the 1960s, Marshall McLuhan got famous with a book on the media, which had the line, "The medium is the message." This was a time when the Americans were very hungry for content. Everyone had a lot of attention to give and only 3 networks on TV to watch. Now we have 1,000 channels and not that many people are watching. We have plenty of pipes. The limiting factor is now the attention. We've gotten to the point where it's the other way around. Now the message is the medium. If you have a message that people want to hear, it will spread virally. And the corollary to that is, if people are not hearing your message, nowadays, it's probably the message that's the problem. I come to the Libertarian Party, as I said, from a different path. I was a non-voter, like the 100 million non-voters who are sick of politics and politicians. And I'm not going to say what you want to hear, because I speak a different language. I could talk about freedom and liberty, but instead I talk about power and control, because that's what people in this country, that's what they see. What we see as freedom, which is the ability to choose to do what you choose to do. We want freedom, but most people are looking for power. They don't have those options. So I want to help to empower. I want us to become not the party so much of limited government, but the party of unlimited individuals, because control is a zero-sum game. The more control the individual has, the less control that our government has.
Thank you.
And if
Dr. Feldman,
government,
thank you.
and if we take power away from government to give it to multinational corporations and the wealthy special interests, the people are not more free.
Thank you, Doctor. And again, to remind all the candidates, if there's something you want to respond to, we'll give you 30 seconds. Just wave your hand and let us know.
All right, we're going to move on then to Governor Johnson, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Reed. The Libertarian Party is called the party of principle. What principle is it that drives you, and do you believe in the NAP, the Non-Aggression Pact?
And actually, sorry, Lex, I think Mr.
Cecil.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. NC, Governor Johnson, Mr. Peterson. Sorry, Cecil.
Ince.
It's okay.
Ince.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like Prince without the PR. I'm working on the public relations.
I'm sorry. I really am sorry.
Yeah, the principle that I like the best is the fact that we are the only party that talks about, not, like he was saying, not just, limited government, where we also advocate individual liberty and physical responsibility. When I came into the Libertarian Party, the slogan was "Enough is enough, vote Libertarian." And whenever I first voted for a presidential candidate, guess who that was? That was Harry Brown. Okay? And then the second presidential candidate I voted for was Michael Badnarik. That was the party I came into. And the principle of the non-aggressive principle is what makes libertarianism into the Libertarian Party. Without the non-aggressive principle, what do we have to hold us together as a party? For me, that is the founding principle of this party, and I give all benefit to the founders of this party, which is Gary Nolan, and getting this party off the ground, because I could not have voted in the political landscape we have today if I never knew about the Libertarian Party. Because I couldn't vote for a Republican because they were stealing my money and they wanted to put me in jail. And I couldn't vote for the Democrats because they wanted to force these programs on me that I did not want. And they locked me into a system of society that I could not hold. But the Libertarian Party gave me something, gave me a reason to live, gave me a reason to vote, gave me a reason to organize with like-minded people, and the Libertarian Party is my home.
Bravo.
Okay, Governor Johnson, for you also, what principles drive you, and what do you think
Well,
of the NAP?
I do believe in the non-aggression principle, and for me personally, I think it was 1972 that I got this book which said, here's what a libertarian is. And I read that book, and from that point on, I was a libertarian. It was very simple, it was very short, and what the book said was, after you finish with this book, pass it on, that others might understand that. The first presidential candidate that I voted for that was a libertarian was Berglund, running against Reagan the second time, when Reagan just blew the lid off of the deficit and spending. I mean, I was just terribly disappointed with all that. When I ran for governor of New Mexico the first time, I really had to decide which party I was going to run for. Now, if I would have, and the first party I went to, the first meeting I went to was the Libertarian Party meeting in Albuquerque. If it would have been a meeting like this right here, I may have run as a libertarian. I would have run as a libertarian. But it wasn't a meeting like this. It was just a handful of people, and it took me about 45 seconds to realize that I wasn't going to get elected running as a libertarian. And then I ran as a Republican because, really, I do believe in dollars and cents. I do believe that the biggest problem facing this country right now is the deficit and spending, and that government really is too big. Now, I don't need to tell you, Republicans and Democrats both have done a horrific job when it comes to dollars and cents. And hey, this is the time. This is the time, and there is a real opportunity here to break through. Libertarian nominee has a real opportunity.
I'd like to pause for a moment to recognize that a new candidate has joined us, Shauna Joy Sterling, who experienced firsthand the joys of Chicago traffic before she came down here. So, and to explain to you the format, we're asking questions, but not every question goes to all candidates, and you get 90 seconds to answer. All right? Okay, Austin, for you.
Sure. So I have always been a libertarian in my heart because I believe in the concept of self-ownership. And I have always believed that the central concept of libertarianism is the idea of private property rights, that you own your life and your body. I believe that you should not hit people and not take their stuff at its most basic level. I think this issue makes me sort of the anti-establishment candidate in this anti-establishment party. I do get in a lot of trouble. I'm kind of a rebel, but trust me, I do have a soul. But I want to educate people, and I want people to question everything because I always want to make sure that I'm being the most logical and reasonable person in the room. So I want to play a little game, a little thought exercise. Bennett, have we ever met before tonight? Yes. When have we met before? All right, let me pick somebody that haven't met before. Have we met before tonight? Okay, will you do a favor and stand up? Let's just play a brief thought exercise, sir. I want to ask you a series of yes or no questions. I want you to answer them yes or no. If you walk past a homeless person on the street and that homeless person is starving to death and you do not feed them, have you committed a crime by not feeding them? No. Okay. Have you initiated force? No. If you have a child and it's your baby, and you, through neglect, allow that child to starve to death, have you committed a crime?
I believe so, yes.
Have you initiated force?
No.
Correct. And so this is the question of whether or not the non-aggression principle itself is the central thesis of libertarianism. Are we aggressing? What are we aggressing against? We are aggressing against private property rights. So it's derivative of private property rights. That's the central thesis of libertarianism. I want us to have a big, wide open party of people who are inclusive. I want everyone to join us, and I don't want to argue about little nitpicky things because we are in trouble, $20 trillion in debt. I'm fighting on the issues that people care about, the Constitution, and that's what people want to hear about. They want to talk about the debt and taxes. I hope you'll join me in my campaign to take over the government because I just want to leave you alone.
30 seconds, please. Yeah, let's go ahead and have Dr. Feldman respond. You got 30 seconds.
Just as a point, I think that letting a child starve to death is an aggression. I think we have a duty to take care of our kids. In addition, I would say I hold the non-aggression principle as a moral and ethical imperative, but it's not helpful as much on a political end because it tells you what not to do, not what to do. So that's why I propose a positive empowerment principle, that we should maximize the power of individuals to control themselves, their property, and their environment without infringing on the rights of others. This works for libertarians, if you put women in for women individuals, maximize the power of women to control themselves, their property, their environment without infringing on the rights of others. That's women's liberation. You can put blacks, Hispanics, you can discuss any libertarian, any freedom movement in terms of empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Feldman.
This question is for Reed, Smith, and Sterling. In the general election, how do you convince somebody that voting for a Libertarian candidate is not a wasted vote?
Because I'll be the nominee and we'll win. Libertarians should focus less on theory and more on the namesake. Libertarianism is an opposition to totalitarianism. Democrats and Republicans have concentrated totalitarian, socialistic, fascist power in D.C., enslaving my countrymen as tax mules, perpetual debtors, and state dependents. We must couch libertarianism in a manner that is understandable to the electorate to win, and that is what I'm capable of doing for the party. The thread that binds us all is a desire for increase in liberties and freedoms in our lives, and that sells. What does not sell is trying to legalize Kool-Aid in Jonestown. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. Again, a very important question about a wasted vote. And man, down in Texas, I've been in all those other parties, and that is a big issue. I'll tell you that it's not a wasted vote in a close election. And you can obviously see that if you remember the election in Florida. So when we stand up for principles, then those principles go around the world, because the world looks to America for leadership. And there are more libertarian parties in other countries now. So, but I want to get back basically to the values and principles issue, and why aren't we challenging the candidates that are leading in the Republican and Democratic parties when clearly they are duplicitous. They are not telling us the truth. They have a history of fabrication, and I think it goes even to a higher level of criminality. Why won't we demand, that the treachery that these candidates, Donald Trump, and the way the Clintons have behaved over the years, why isn't that a crucial issue? It is a crucial issue. We want role models. You may say, well, we just want people to execute. We just want a Secretary of State that flies around the world. But we need someone that is also a role model for the next generation of young Americans. And when we back away from these issues, we betray ourselves. You mentioned women and minorities. This should be a strong issue for the Libertarian Party. We don't see a whole lot of women and minorities here, and when I go to Libertarian meetings, we need more. We want women leaders. We want minority leaders to stand up for these values and principles that started before the American Revolution. There was a libertarian movement before the American Revolution. This is what we need. Thank you.
Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, just like the other day, I was doing fencing with my horses and in rural Kentucky, and today I'm fighting traffic in Chicago to get here. So it's worth it. But, I think about Biloxi, our first debate, and I said this at the last debate. 1 week from our first debate, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Libertarian Party is getting more members than it had in years. Okay? That's awesome. Then, from our second debate to this debate, in Texas, they're getting overloaded with people joining the party. So, I believe that sometimes you get these perfect storms. And while the other ones are going to crash in it, we're going to fly to the top. And when people come and they're excited and it's not just the vote. Forget about that. They want to be part of something that's going to be positive, and that's going to be strong. And they don't want us to say, oh, we're just going to go for 1% or 5%. They want us to say, come November, the Libertarian Party is going to take the White House. That's what they want to hear. And if we say that, then we will organize like that. And, you know, I did a little bit at NASA. They say, shoot for the moon, and you end up in the stars somewhere, but you'll get there. But I believe there's a year we can do it. I think the Libertarian Party might have been born for this year.
This next question goes to Dr. Feldman, Mr. Ince, and Governor Johnson. Real simple. What's the role of government in our lives?
The role of government in our lives is to protect the rights of the individual Americans, period.
Well, let me rephrase that.
Too short?
Too short.
I thought I'd save time for others.
What are the proper functions of government in our life?
The Constitution, I don't believe that our principles are great because they're in the Constitution. I think the Constitution's great because it embodies our principles. I don't call myself an anarchist or a minarchist. I call myself an agnarchist. I'm not sure what the best size of government is. I think government needs to get to the size that it works well and under the Constitution. I think that's a lot smaller than it is now. I think my balance and credit plan that puts government in direct financial competition for funds with the private sector will shrink government while building up the private sector at the same time, based on the decisions of individual Americans. Will get government to do what it does best.
And Mr. Ince, what are the proper functions of government?
Well, for one, the judicial branch is designed to protect and preserve life, liberty, and property, and should not go any further than that. Government overreach currently is out of control legislatively, the executive branch, and the judicial branch, and it's time to reduce it, restore liberty back to its constitutional bare bones, and get rid of every single department and bureau and agency that is not authorized by the Constitution. If they want to keep it, they need to call for a constitutional convention and ratify an amendment.
Governor Johnson.
I think government's fundamental responsibility is to protect us against individuals, groups, corporations, foreign governments that would do us harm. It's just that simple. And with regard to government function, best product, best service at the absolute lowest price. So be open to taking government function and privatizing those functions. In any case where goods and services end up being the same, but cost ends up being lower. In any case where goods and services end up being better, cost is the same. I mean, just really common sense when it comes to running government. As governor of New Mexico, the first time in the history of the state, when I was governor of New Mexico, there was actually 1,000 fewer state employees when I left office than when I got there. That had never happened before. It had always been a plus. And given the fact that people saw that government was actually running better or the same, worst, it was the same, but really there was an observation that it was running better. It was, and so it had to be more efficient because there were 1,000 fewer state employees. So look, fundamental function of government, protecting us in that capacity. Government does currently serve a lot of function that as libertarians we should be looking to privatize whenever possible. Best product, best service, lowest price.
May I respond? May I respond? Yes. I completely disagree. The role of government is not to protect us from corporations or individuals or other governments. That's what the Second Amendment is for. The role of government, says they exist, are to protect our individual liberties. Those liberties are derived from a concept of natural rights. The Founding Fathers had a Lockean, a John Lockean concept of government. That is to protect the life and liberty and property of each and every one of us. And Thomas Jefferson knew that the balance must be on liberty, not on security, because he knew that timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the boisterous seas of liberty. And you know what else he said? He said that I would rather be exposed to the inconveniences of too much liberty than of too little. Thank you.
30 seconds.
I just wanted to add that we are all running for the office of President of the United States of America. And with that office, you raise your right hand and you pledge a loyalty to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution. And the reason we do, and that's for the federal government. So the federal government's role is to protect the U.S. Constitution. When they do that, then they protect all of our rights, all the rights, that the equality, everything. When the federal government tries to do all these other programs that don't have that aim, those are programs we don't need to even pay. We don't need to worry about.
Okay. Excellent question, and since we've had some really good answers up here, I also want to weigh in. Basically, you have to look at what happened before and after World War II. So the provincial government, the isolationist government that we had prior to World War II certainly changed, after the nuclear explosion in Japan and after, the arms race, the Cold War. We cannot shrink from that global responsibility. What are we doing up here? We're not doing anything as far as our global leadership. Are we going to be isolationists? Are we going to lead the entire world to a better place? Our dollar is the standard of the world. Our economy is the standard of the world. But
Mr.
no
Smith.
one is speaking about it.
Thank you.
We have to do that tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
We're reluctant to butt in when you're on a roll, but when you see Jason or one of us signal, no, that's all right.
Didn't even see you.
That's right. So that everybody gets a chance to speak. So very good.
Can I have 15 seconds? Austin, you stole everything I was thinking in my head when I was wanting to say it. And second, nowhere in the Constitution does it say that we're to be global leaders. Thank you.
May I rebut?
You only get two, so if
Okay.
you can use it now.
Well, I never said we need to be global leaders. I think we need to protect the United States of America and our citizens. That's what the Constitution provides for.
All right.
Next question's for Mr. Reed, starting.
Okay. For Mr. Reed and Mr. Smith and then Ms. Sterling. I'm going to look to some maybe less libertarian subjects that are of interest to all the candidates and all the parties. Let's talk about the Affordable Health Care Act. The people who championed that act will point out that it has brought health care coverage to millions of people. Do you support the ACA or something like it? And if not, what do you propose to take its place? Mr. Reed.
There are many here with their theory, and isn't that nice? What good is capitalism if they destroy the money, or if they rig the markets? The theory is nice, but there's no practical solution. The Affordable Health Care Act asked now is a narrow focus. What we need to do is eliminate all social programs at the federal level, reinstate the republic, and have at the state level a minimum level of safety nets, including a system of charter banks, kitchens, clinics, and shelters to provide a minimum level of compassionate care. The object is to restore the republic with practical, workable plans and eliminate the moral hazards of systemic socialism at the federal level. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smith, the same question. Do you support the ACA? And if not, what do you propose would take its place?
Excellent question. And I hope that everybody gets a chance to answer that, because Judge Gray, when he came to Texas, seemed to be saying that we were stuck with the ACA. And Judge Gray is your spokesperson, right, Governor Johnson? But I am opposed. I believe in minimum government, maximum freedom, and what we need to do is diminish the role of the federal government, and when we do that, the void that's created needs to be filled by the state governments. So they need to step up to the plate and start taking care of their own responsibilities instead of running to Washington. That's what's happening. They want to run to Washington and get those democratic socialist solutions to all our problems, and the 50 states need to be independent. That's what our administration, when I get elected, if I get elected, we will be empowering the 50 states, bringing them to Washington, teaching them how they can stand on their own.
Bravo, bravo.
Okay, Ms. Sterling, what do you think of the ACA and what do you propose?
I hate it. I hate it, and and I'm going to, how they say, pull it up, root and all, and repeal it. And that sounds that's a lot, but I'm going to tell you this, and y'all might hate me, but a couple years ago, I got, well, more than that, back in when Obama was trying to get reelected, I got recruited as an Obama organizer. And I actually thought, well, I can help people get health insurance. I bought it. Now, I didn't really know what the Libertarian Party was. I wish I would have, because I felt at home in the Libertarian Party, and I just never felt at home in any of the other parties. But so I helped him get elected. I helped the ACA go through. And it's not affordable. It's not helping families. Every family in America now has to answer to the IRS every year for every month, and if they get fined if they don't support it and show it in their taxes. And I think it's just the IRS is out of control. They should have nothing to do with health care. And I don't think Obama needs to know every single time you go to the doctor and what you're dealing with, or any part of the federal government. The states need to take that on, and if the federal government wants to create a program to help them do that and transition it, fine, but I will repeal it. I will seek to repeal it, whatever I need to do.
May I respond to this as well?
May I
My second
respond?
response. Firstly, I'm a victim of Obamacare. Thanks very much. Thank you, Obama. When the president lied to the American people, he should have been impeached immediately. That was a crime. I'm a victim of Obamacare because I had affordable health insurance. I was paying underneath $100 a month. Then my insurance was canceled. My premiums were tripled. I had just started a small business. This hurt me right where it hit me the most, at the worst possible timing, right when I had jumped out to try and start a small business and create jobs. You know, I was there, and I was with Ms. Borowski the day that Obamacare was upheld the second time, the Supreme Court decision. And you know what I saw the liberals doing? They were lighting up cigarettes, and not doing it ironically. They were doing it because they knew that their health care was going to be paid for. We have got to eradicate this mentality. The Social Democrats have got to go down this election. I will take them down.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Governor Johnson, you want to rebut?
When the whole healthcare debate started, I thought, here's an opportunity to talk about free market solutions for healthcare. And by the way, healthcare is about as far removed from free market as it possibly can be. But I reject the insurance model to cover ourselves for ongoing medical expenses. In a free market approach to healthcare, we would have healthcare to cover ourselves for catastrophic injury and illness, and we would pay as you go in a system that was really competitive. So when this first started out, I had envisioned stitches are us. Gallbladders are us. For thousands of dollars, you could get your gallbladder taken out as opposed to tens of thousands of dollars. I'd envisioned x-rays are us, and then the radiologist down the street that will read the x-rays from x-rays are us. Very affordable, probably a fifth of what we're currently spending, and like I say, pay as you go in a system that would be very affordable.
Thank you, Governor Johnson. Mr. Ince, you have one more rebuttal.
Real quick, all I got to say is we need to repeal Obamacare at any cost, and I don't mean with force, but we need to lobby Congress. We need to make presidential candidate needs to make the president needs to make recommendations to Congress and the Senate to get it repealed completely. And secondly, Dr. Feldman, have you ever given pro bono services?
Sure.
Today, if you gave pro bono services, what is the consequences?
Legal.
Okay. Thank you for your pro bono service. I think we need to go back to that.
This question is for Dr. Feldman, Cecil, and Gary Johnson. Immigration, big issue this election. What should be done about illegal immigrants that are in this country currently? Dr. Feldman.
Well, I understand the concern. We have a culture that has developed through shared history, common values, and people are coming in not always for the right reasons. But I think we can welcome Republicans into this party. And I see no reason to build a wall. But in terms of immigration, the concern is really political. This is not really a social issue. The Republicans are not concerned about future criminals coming in. They're concerned about future Democrats. We are a nation of immigrants, and we need to, Milton Friedman had said that a welfare state and open borders are not compatible. So I say, let's open the borders and end the welfare state.
Yeah, Cecil?
You'll get a chance.
Immigration, as was just said, is we're a melting pot of the entire world. People immigrated here from Germany, from Russia, from Jerusalem, from all over the world to come to the United States and the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, and coming in. We need the open borders like Ellis Island again. We need to open the borders like that with controlled immigration done through the U.S. District Courts. You come into, right now, if you decide you want to go to the Philippines, all you need is a passport. But if someone from the Philippines wants to come here, they have to have a visa first. Why can we not extend the same courtesy to these other countries? Right now, it's just a big problem. And with the welfare state as well, people are coming in getting free services that are not even U.S. citizens. Right now, what needs to happen is we need to get rid of the welfare state. We need to get rid of Obamacare. We need to get revitalize the industry and the workforce. And we can't do that as long as government is oppressing the economy. We need to dismantle the current mercantile economy system and reinstate the free market trade economy.
Gary Johnson?
So speaking as a border governor, I'd like to start off by saying immigration is really a good thing. And when it comes to immigrants from Mexico, we're getting the cream of the crop. When it comes to workers, they're not taking jobs that U.S. citizens want. They're taking jobs that U.S. citizens don't want. Wages are really not an issue unless language is an issue. And Mexicans are the first ones that recognize that, so they're bent on learning the language because then wages become parity or even better because they have such a wonderful work ethic. Look, let's make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country to get a work visa. Not a green card, not citizenship, but a work visa. A work visa should entail a background check and a Social Security card so that applicable taxes get paid. Make the line moving to get across the border and they will stand in line. With regard to the 11 million illegal immigrants that are here in this country right now, deporting them is crazy. But there should be a process by which those that have not committed any crimes get to start off by having a work visa with a pathway to citizenship, just like this country has been since its inception. We are all immigrants.
Mr. Reed, you'd like to respond with 30 seconds.
Theory, pie in the sky. Go ask American Indians what they think about open borders. 95% wiped off the face of the earth. African Americans brought here as slaves under an open border leading to 625,000 dead in a civil war and 150 years of race tensions. Immigration is great, but it must be controlled to allow the new immigrants to assimilate into a culture of democracy, liberty, freedom, and capitalism. It must be controlled for that legitimate purpose. Immigration for the second-class citizens living in the shadows today, there should be paths to citizenships without amnesty. It's appalling that it's occurring in this country. Thank you.
Mr. Reed. This next question is going to be for Mr. Peterson, Mr. Reed, and Mr. Smith concerning foreign policy. I take it we all understand the non-interventionist foreign policy up here. I see heads nodding yes. Given the current state of things with international affairs, how would you handle domestic or extremists, terrorists, issues like Syria, North Korea, and so on?
Well, first, can I just please say stop the fear-mongering, because you're much more likely to drown in a bathtub than you are to be killed by a terrorist. So I don't want to have the fear-mongers up here anymore telling you all of these threats that are potentially not going to happen to you, okay? But we do have actual threats, and I'm very inspired by Dr. Ron Paul's foreign policy. He wanted to hire, he wanted to hire bloody mercenaries the day after 9/11 to go after Osama bin Laden. Perhaps we wouldn't have dropped $2 trillion in blood and treasure in the Middle East. So let's look at the Constitution. We should never go to war without a declaration of war. That much is true. Also, the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, allows the Congress to lay letters of marque. There are a lot of veterans who are out of work. Hire them, letter of marque on their head, al-Baghdadi and his associates, if they threaten the United States, send our veterans over there to be embedded in Raqqa. Don't carpet bomb them. Don't create all of this collateral damage. Let's get precise about our national security. Let's do what Ron Paul had stated. That's the way we should do it. Always follow the Constitution.
Mr. Reed.
I don't think hiring assassins is the way to go. The way to go is through making friends between Russia, China, the EU, and the U.S. to resolve disputes around the country. For example, the road to Tehran leads through Donetsk. Tehran's a lot closer to Moscow in terms of a nuclear threat. The United States should befriend Russia and get them on the same team to chill out. Rumors are that Iran and Saudi Arabia already have the bomb. It's some serious stuff. In terms of the mechanism involved, you set forth red lines. You report to Congress if red lines are breached. It's up to Congress then to dictate to the president when to intervene. It shouldn't be done voluntarily. We don't need a military dictator in the presidency, but we need to follow the Constitution. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you. And of course, I think this question is so crucial to everything that we are doing, why we need to have a candidate for president, why we have to challenge the Republican and Democratic parties. Let me see a show of hands. Who thinks that Donald Trump is a bully and a coward? Thank you. Who thinks that Austin Peterson is a Donald Trump clone?
Is this because I'm winning? Because I'm number one? Because
You're gonna hire assassins to go do secret acts?
yeah, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be big.
And when
Mr. Peterson, Mr. Smith, if we could,
when I
let's.
bring up isolationism, then I'm criticized for calling you out on being an isolationist, but you're going to use assassins to go around the world.
And Mr. Peterson, if you want to respond, since he did directly.
Yeah, I've been called the Donald Trump of this party. You know why he's leading, ladies and gentlemen? It's not because of his policies. It's because of how he's a salesman. And that's what I'm learning. You've got to give him credit for that, ladies and gentlemen. Just because he's politically incorrect and his politics are incorrect, it's okay to be a little politically incorrect as long as your politics are correct. I'm a hardcore libertarian. I'm a song and dance man. I'll give him the old razzle-dazzle, ladies and gentlemen, and they'll be singing our song, the sweet song of liberty. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. That's what America will be singing when I take the Oval Office next year.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Reed, you'd like to add 30 seconds to this?
I've done the analysis. Mr. Peterson is a shameless profiteer, a shallow panderer, and a grossly naive pundit. The Cato Institute 2 days ago debunked his budgetary plan, and finally, they're a little slow, reaffirmed my teachings that you must solve insolvency before you address the budget. He is demonstrating his naivety repeatedly. He should stop embarrassing himself and the Libertarian Party and withdraw
Mr. Reed.
immediately.
One thing though, last thing, he's right, I am like Trump, I want to build a wall around Trump and make Bernie Sanders pay for it.
Okay. If we could just keep the back and forth as limited as possible so we can have enough from all the candidates.
And
Thank
actually, you have used all your rebuttal
Okay.
period, so.
I was attacked.
Okay. and
Mr.
that-
Feldman, is Mr. Feldman all right to give 30 seconds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
I'm not an isolationist. I just prefer dropping free speech, tourism, philanthropy, and investment on other countries instead of bombs. And I believe that the Libertarian Party is a coalition, not a cult. And we don't have too many people in it, and I value the contribution that every single person up here is giving. Thank you.
See, we're starting with Sterling? Yep. Okay, so the next questions are for Ms. Sterling, Dr. Feldman, and Mr. Ince. And continuing on foreign policy, are we making the world more dangerous by allowing Iran access to its money and giving it more control in the Middle East? Would you have supported Obama's deal with Iran?
I don't. That's tough. It really is, because we really don't want to have Iran as an enemy. I'm going to give them some credit. They gave our soldiers, some of them crossed over onto their territory. They gave them back to us alive, which could have been a different story. But because of the work that we've done trying to have some relationship with them, we were able to get them back. However, I wanted to go back to the foreign policy that we were talking about before. One of the important things to remember is that when a president decides to send our soldiers to war, it needs to go through Congress. We don't have a AUMF that authorizes Congress to send, that authorizes a president such as Obama to send 20 or 30,000 troops to Syria to help fight this war. Obama's seeking it. Okay, other Lindsey Graham, McCain, they all want it. But the truth is we do have an AUMF that authorizes our special forces to go and pursue the U.S. enemies, Al-Qaeda. And ISIS is Al-Qaeda in Iraq. So wherever Al-Qaeda is, the same entities that killed 3,000 of our American citizens, we will pursue them with our special forces. You don't go get mercenaries and do all this CIA undercover stuff, because that's what happened. Obama tried to do that. He tried to make the secret deal with the CIA, and you know what? He armed our enemies, and that's treason.
Thank you. Dr. Feldman, for you as well. Would you have supported Obama's deal with Iran?
This comes up a lot in any libertarian discussion. Certain trigger words, allow is one of them, let, support, permit. It's always my question, is it any of our business in the first place? Is this what we should be involved in? Obama's deal with Iran was not, the problem with Obama's deal with Iran is that it's in a bigger picture. There are two groups whose irrational hatred of each other is putting the whole world at risk. This is not us in the Middle East, this is the Democrats and the Republicans. The reason why Benjamin Netanyahu came to this country is because when a friend's in trouble, a friend calls a friend for help. So when the Republicans were in trouble, they called their friend Benjamin Netanyahu to come to the United States to help them out. That's why it was such a problem. This deal doesn't accomplish anything. It's not I have difficulty commenting on it. I don't think it was a great boon to the world. I don't think it was a great threat. I think it was a show and part of a political process that we should have no part in.
Mr. Ince, same question for you.
Well, the situations and the tensions in the Middle East, they go back for a long time, and the United States involvement. I mean, there's probably a handful of people in here that when I say Iran-Contra scandal, they know what I'm talking about. Okay? The The problem is we're there, and as long as we're invading other countries, they're going to continue to fight us. And they will continue and continue because we're dropping bombs on civilian villages, civilian towns. And there's no military there. And this has been in the news. And I've watched the videos that were taken by locals' cell phones. And why are we sending our troops to kill civilians? All we're doing is stirring up a hornet's nest, and we've been doing this since we decided we wanted to be the police of the world. It's time for us to be a peaceful nation and a non-interventionist foreign policy. Free trade, free market. Philip Morris, please send them some cigarettes.
Was there a rebuttal? Okay, Governor Johnson?
Well, no military interventions, no boots on the ground, no dropping bombs, no drone strikes that are killing thousands of innocent individuals. But initially, I supported the Iran deal. Initially, I just thought, well, that just makes good common sense, until I came to recognize that unquestionably, Iran is the leading funder of Islamic terrorism in the world. And so when you release all these funds, and Secretary Kerry admitted it, he said, the question was, are some of these funds going to go to terrorism? And he said, I'd be naive to say that they wouldn't. I don't see how we can support the deal with Iran, given that.
This question is for Johnson, Peterson, and Reed. Abortion. I believe the LP platform is pro-choice. Do you agree? Why or why not? Johnson first.
Well, I absolutely agree. I think that how can there be a more difficult choice for any person than a woman confronted with an unwanted pregnancy? How can there be a more difficult choice? And how can anyone make that decision other than the woman involved? That's where I come down on this issue. I don't even want to talk about my own position on it, because overriding that, like I say, is the woman involved and her ability to make that choice.
I believe that all humans are endowed with the same right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All humans. And while the LP platform itself could be construed as being pro-choice, the reality is we all know that the president doesn't really have much of a say, because murder is a state's issue, not a federal issue. And I believe as libertarians that we must always lift up life, and that life is our first priority, and that we should find ways to defend life, and we should find non-government ways to do so as libertarians. The first thing that I like to say is, gentlemen, if you had to undergo a pelvic exam in order to get birth control for yourselves, I guarantee you it would have been available over the counter. So we need to look at those kinds of non-government solutions to end abortions, but we should always stand on the side of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness at all stages, and that's what I defend.
Reed?
At the common law, a life and being began at birth. As a Christian, I am personally opposed to any abortion. As president, I follow the law. That's the common law. The Supreme Court could have decided that equal protection extends at the beginning of the third trimester as the fetus being viable, and could have decided to prohibit abortion during the third trimester, but has yet to do so. Otherwise, it becomes a social issue under states' rights. The states would then address that issue in terms of social engineering. The federal government's got no business in the doctor's office. It's an invasion of confidentiality and privacy. And so it is a difficult issue. I would tend to leave it to states' rights in terms of the third trimester, following the law and the Republic. Thank you.
Can I quickly respond? I think the Libertarian platform is neither pro-life nor pro-choice, and I don't see how you get that. And I think that we should be proud of that, because the issue with the Democrats is they do terminate the life of the fetus, and the issue with the Republicans is that they do not value the life of the mother. And I think simply because the Libertarians have not been in power, we have not involved ourselves in either of those terminations of life, and I think that's an important point, and I think the 50 states are crucibles of democracy, and 50 states should weigh in on this.
Every candidate has used up the 2 rebuttal periods, so in the interest of keeping this going so we can get all the questions in, we're going to then go on.
All right, this next question starts with Ms. Sterling, also Dr. Feldman, and Mr. Entz. Kind of along the same lines here, it was mentioned that a president doesn't have much to do with the decision about whether abortion should be legal or illegal. However, there's a Supreme Court vacancy right now. It seems that the next president of the United States will be the one making that choice if the Senate Republicans' blockade continues. What would you be looking for in a Supreme Court justice?
I'm, of course, a libertarian, but a strong constitutionalist. I believe in the U.S. Constitution. And when you read that document very closely, you will see that our founding fathers said, called a person prior to birth, they called him a person. And because our founding fathers wanted to give an inheritance to any future, well, all of us, future United States citizens, life and liberty and freedom and everything that's in the U.S. Constitution, they did that for all persons who would be born into the United States. So according to that document, we really have, we could go up, I don't know why no one's brought it to the Supreme Court's attention, but really a person is defined, a human being prior to birth, according to the U.S. Constitution, is defined as a person. And according to the Constitution, that person has the right to to have a trial before his rights are taken away. So I would say that if an abortion is supposed to be an issue, then before that child is aborted, then it needs to go before a court and a judge before the rights to life are taken away. At the same time, it's not a federal decision. Well, the U.S. Constitution plays a role. I'm sorry. Yes, does that make sense? Is there any questions? Okay.
All right, Dr. Feldman, again, the question is, who would you look for and what qualities would you look for to be the next Supreme Court Justice?
I have enough confidence in our principles that they're correct. It's not a question of faith. It's just what you see in the world. What I would look for a justice is someone of sound mind, sound judgment, with intelligence and experience in the law, and I trust them fully that once they're on the court, they will do what's right. As far as pro-life and pro-choice, we're a party of principle, but the political sections, they call themselves pro-life and pro-choice, also have principles. Those who say they are pro-life but pro-life except for the life of the mother. Well, pro-life but is not pro-life. Pro-choice but is not pro-choice. People who believe in this, for libertarians, the question isn't when does life begin. The question is when does the power of the state, is it supreme over the right of the individual? And that's why I say I would like every person who considers themselves pro-life and every person who considers them pro-choice, I want to maximize your power to control yourself, your property, and your environment as long as you do not infringe on the rights of others. I encourage you to change hearts and minds, but not laws. We are the Libertarian Party, and the government has no business promoting, financing, or prohibiting abortion. Thank you.
Mr. Ince, again, the question is, what qualities would you be looking in for the next Supreme Court justice?
Judge Gray. If I'm elected president of the United States, the recommendations are going to be libertarian judges and libertarian attorneys. There ain't going to be no way around that for me. Those are the recommendations I would make. And as for the pro-life, pro-choice, I'm pro-life and pro-choice, okay? And I'm anti-abortion. And I'll tell you what I mean, because in the Constitution it talks about Congress should promote the arts and the sciences. I believe that we need to start putting money in individually, not the government should make anybody, but me personally, I want to donate to ectogenesis research and fetus transplant. We need an alternative. We've been beating the dead horse of pro-life, pro-choice far enough, and we have medical research that we have space-age technology today, and they've been doing abortions since the Dark Ages. It's time that we move on. Oh, I could have got a better clap.
Very good. Thank you. Well, another issue that often comes before the Supreme Court is the Second Amendment and the ownership of guns. What is the harm in expanding background checks for gun ownership? And what ways, if any, should we be limiting gun ownership? This question will be for Governor Johnson, Mr. Peterson, and Mr. Reed. Governor Johnson, you first.
So, well, it is the Second Amendment to the Constitution, so I support the Second Amendment to the Constitution. I'm in the camp that believes that if guns are made illegal, or if you limit the number of rounds in a chamber, or if you limit the caliber of the bullet, that only the criminals are going to have that kind of capability. I'm just in that camp. Right now, I think that we should welcome a discussion over keeping guns out of the hands of mentally ill. But in that context of welcoming the discussion and the debate, I haven't heard anything that would make a difference. All I've heard are suggestions that ultimately I'm not going to be able to get a gun if I don't want to get one because I'm going to fail some sort of test, some sort of litmus test going to get a gun to potentially defend myself, and that I would have no other way of doing that. So we need to be open to the discussion. Open to the discussion, but like I say, for me, I haven't heard anything that makes any sense.
Mr. Peterson.
I guess I do believe in some form of gun control. We need to control the government's use of guns. George Mason was George Washington's hunting buddy, and he actually agreed with me because when they were writing the militia clause of the Second Amendment, he said, "I ask, sir, what then is the militia? It is the whole of the people, except for a few public officials," which meant that we had an unlimited right to use our Second Amendment rights. And they didn't write muskets, they wrote arms. We need a total repeal of the National Firearms Act, no more expanded background checks. I would oppose this at every turn. The Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms ought to be a shop, not a government agency, and that's the end of it.
I am okay with background checks pursuant to due process of law as to violent criminals and the mentally impaired. Thank you.
This question is for Smith, Sterling, and Dr. Feldman. Welfare. What welfare programs would you cut? And if you would cut them, how would you cut them in a way that doesn't hurt people who have grown dependent on them?
Excellent question. Let's see. The military-industrial complex, the corporations, the richest people. How did Donald Trump get $5 billion? Government contracts, folks. Give me a break. The best thing we can do is get government out of our lives, but the first thing we could do this tomorrow, and everybody could do it. Double or triple the standard deduction and personal exemption so that people at that low income would not be paying that high rate of tax, or maybe no tax at all. That would immediately stimulate the economy and help as far as having some public service, some safety net, so that, really a free economy works better. And the libertarian principle really is that individuals, private citizens, would step up to the plate to take care of those individuals that cannot take care of themselves.
I actually believe that if people want to help others out, whether maybe their grandmother passed away and they want to help out the elderly, or they have a heart to help out children, then they should have that option to put some money into the fund that could go and help families out. The problem that we have is that when you get food assistance, no matter what state you're in, it's really difficult to get off that food assistance because it goes back to even the ACA now. With the ACA being passed, the Obama's health care, a lot of jobs are now dropping people down to part-time. And they say, oh, why? And that's a big thing with Walmart. Why are you dropping us to part-time? Oh, well, we want you to be able to qualify for food assistance. We want you to qualify for welfare. And they don't want to have to do the health insurance, so then they qualify for Obamacare. So they're kind of in this trap. So if they try to get out of it and get a better paying job, and they don't qualify for that lower price health insurance, then they're going to start getting hit with these double payments and higher payments. That's not an incentive for them to try and dig their way out of it. So they get stuck in a cycle that is pretty impossible to get out of, and it really looks like the current federal government wants to keep them there and get more people there. Our middle class in 2008, the middle class, a lot of them are in poverty now.
Every large corporation has a duty to grow in size and power, including the corporation we call the federal government. There's two kinds of people who support and depend on big government: really poor people and really rich people. It's no surprise that we're seeing greater and greater disparities of wealth that's actually caused by government transfers. I have a plan to reverse the process. It's called the Balance and Credit Plan. Two small changes. Number one, balance the budget and keep it balanced. We can do it on day one. It's not a fiscal problem, it's a political problem. Number two, very simple, change all charitable deductions, instead of deductions to taxable income, to dollar for dollar tax credits. This has been in the Libertarian platform for decades. Now, combining these two makes it so every time you donate $1,000 to charity, because of the balanced budget, we have to cut the government by $1,000. Now we know where to do it, though. If people are donating to educational institutions, we cut the Department of Education. If people are donating to health care for the homeless, we can cut health care for the homeless. The money comes from us anyway, but instead of the decision being made on political factors by a few guys in Washington, they get made by every taxpayer. That's how we cut welfare payments without decreasing benefits to those who need them. Thank you.
Next for Mr. Ince, Governor Johnson, and Mr. Peterson. Let's talk taxes, income tax in particular. The 16th Amendment amended the Constitution to allow for the federal government to levy a direct tax on individuals. Would you support repealing the 16th Amendment? If so, how would you make up for the loss of dollars to the federal government used for all the various things we've been discussing?
We don't have enough time for me to answer that.
You got 90 seconds.
90 seconds. Oh, first of all, as the President of the United States, call for a constitutional Congress to repeal the 16th Amendment. Okay. Now, the other side of your question, well, I'm going to be abolishing the Department of Education, which is unconstitutional, and every other unconstitutional agency. And as a result, we could have import tariffs on goods coming into the United States that would fund the federal government.
That was a lot less than 90 seconds.
Did I say the wrong word? Did I say tariff?
Thank you.
No, not exports, imports. I wouldn't tax the American people.
All right, Governor Johnson, 16th Amendment, would you support repealing it? If so, how would you make up for the money that's lost there?
Well, I would support repealing the 16th Amendment, and I would also support repealing the 17th Amendment, which allows for the direct election of senators. If that weren't the case, we would not be in the predicament that we're in right now. I'm advocating eliminating income tax, eliminating corporate tax, and because we do that, we can also abolish the IRS. If there's anybody that can make that kind of a revenue loss stick, it's me. But I don't think Congress is going to go along with just cutting those taxes. So I would say that we could replace all of that with one federal consumption tax. I suggest to you, and there are no fair taxes, all right, but I suggest to you that the fair tax is a template for how we can dot the I's and cross the T's on bringing about one federal consumption tax. In the fair tax template is repeal of the 16th Amendment before anything else goes forward. And so when we talk about jobs in this country, look, zero corporate income tax, won't tens of millions of jobs be created in the United States? Because why would you start up, grow, or a business anywhere in the world other than the United States, given a zero corporate tax rate? And imagine our lives without the IRS. Whoa! Yeah. That's nuts. Whoa.
Thank you, Governor. Mr. Peterson, same question. 16th Amendment, would you repeal it? If so, how would you make up for the lost revenue?
We absolutely should abolish the 16th Amendment to the Constitution, as well as the IRS. But we should not replace it with anything. I don't want to make up revenue. I want to cut spending. That's what we got to be talking about. And we'll do this by instituting the penny plan. It's very simple. 1 penny out of every federal dollar. That's 1 penny out of every federal dollar. That puts us on the path to a balanced budget in 5 years. That would cut $7.9 trillion in spending over 10 years. Let's not talk about instituting new taxes. We as libertarians should not be talking about laying any new tax schemes. I don't want to hear anything about any fair taxes, national sales taxes, because I don't want to pay $10,000 for a computer, because that's what's going to happen if you implement a national sales tax. But I'll tell you what, let's go to a flat tax in the meantime if Congress can't get out of their problems, if they can't solve the problems, and I will veto every single bill that does not include a spending cut year over year. Let's balance the budget, no new taxes, cut programs. That's what we should be doing.
All right, so these questions are going to be for Mr. Reed, Mr. Smith, and Ms. Sterling. And we've seen a lot of increased attention on police brutality against citizens and violence of citizens against police. What do you think should be done about it, and what would you do as president?
As I had predicted about a year ago, when the Ferguson thing surfaced, was that the police shootings are generated mostly by the level of poverty, and sure enough, there is a correlation between the number of police shootings and poverty. When you take desperate people in poverty and you race bait them, you get them excited. They get into the police's face. They don't respect law. Police become trigger happy and tragic incidences occur. The best way to solve the trigger happy police shootings is to address poverty and race baiting. There is no systemic brutality in the country by the police. There is trigger-happy cops who are afraid. They see crime, they see people getting in their face, they see people who do not respect the law. So the solution is going after poverty and eliminating race baiting. And a lot of the police shootings will stop because black lives really do matter, all lives really do matter. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Smith?
Yes, thank you very much, and I think this should certainly be an important issue. Oh, great, thank you.
Thanks, Governor. That's how you get things done.
This should be an important issue for our Libertarian Party. The issue of police brutality, I think clearly the framers were concerned about the over-empowerment of government, and everyone on this panel is...
You should have seen him last week in Virginia ducking under the chair when I tagged him a little. It was hilarious also.
Okay. Mr. Smith, I'm going to let you start over if you'd like, okay?
Wrap this up. The issue of police brutality should be the front and center issue for the Libertarian Party. And I think Austin brought up an important point about disarming the police. If the police were not so heavily armed, they might not be so interested in confronting people all the time. And certainly Derek brought up the very important issues of poverty and race. And I would also bring up just a mental evaluation. We talk a lot about mental health and don't do anything about it, but how many police officers have been evaluated for mental health?
All right, Ms. Sterling, same question.
I actually think Mr. Smith has a great point as far as this being something that the Libertarian Party should really focus on, because this is such a huge issue, and all Americans can relate to this. This is a big issue to me because I have family members that are in law enforcement, and one in Long Beach, and that's pretty dangerous down there. And he's been there since I was a little girl, so we get a lot of stories. But you know what happens is you get people in that they're just brutal, they just don't care, and they shouldn't be. I don't believe it doesn't make them good police officers. It puts our other officers in danger. That's how I see it. I don't think they should be in, but higher ups cover for them, and then people over them cover for them.
Police unions.
That could be what it is, and so we've got some corruption. Probably some corruption that needs to be dealt with, and you need to be in a pretty high position to do it, because when you start dealing with corruption like this, it could be a dangerous thing to do. But somebody's got to do it, because if we don't do it, then these individuals who are committing these acts, they'll continue to engage in them, and those who really do want to see these race wars in the U.S. will know who to go to and how to trigger it and try to get us all divided. But I do think that the Libertarian Party will show that we don't want this. We want freedom, we want equality, we want people protected and not have to worry about this. It could really help our party.
Okay, great, thank you. Now it's time for closing remarks. Every candidate gets 90 seconds, and we'll start at the end with Dr. Feldman.
Oh, it gives me a chance to make a comment. When government represents the people, then the police are part of the community to serve and protect the community. When government represents the special interests, the wealthy, the multinational corporations, then the armed part of our government becomes an army of occupation to enforce unfair laws upon the people. It isn't a problem of bad and corrupt cops as much as it is a bad and corrupt system. And the way to do it is by the voters. We need to change our government to represent the people. Thank you.
When did we the people become us and them? You know, it's time to restore liberty. You know, every member, every citizen of the United States should be a member of the government. And we don't have to be elected. We have to be the voter. The elected need to be the representatives or the servants to the people. We have this pyramid all flipped upside down. It's no longer we the people, it's us and them. And one thing I want to add to what we've talked about tonight is the use of force continuum needs to be implemented in every state when it comes to police officers. Second, it's not the role of the federal government to force that on the states.
I think I would be President of the United States today if in 2012 just 3 things would have gotten known. One was the website isidewith.com. You get online, you answer questions, you get paired up with the presidential candidate most in line with your views. In 2012, I was the next President of the United States just based on being in sync with what most Americans think. Now, you could have a homeless person that could do that, but I do think I have a resume that suggests I can do the job. Also, as the ACLU issued a report card on all the presidential candidates. 24 Liberty torches was a perfect score. Look, Mitt Romney, Newt Gingrich, and Rick Santorum had 1 Liberty torch between the 3 of them. In 3rd place was Barack Obama with 16, and 2nd place was Ron Paul with 18, and I was 1st with 21. They also did another analysis of jobs and who created the most jobs as whatever position they held. Well, it was me. Rick Perry was beating his chest. They came up with the analysis that it was me. Well, my response to that was, I didn't create a single job when I was governor of New Mexico. The private sector does, but I did help create this level playing field. I want you to know that I am really competitive, and having gone through this in 2012, let me tell you, no third party is going to get elected unless they are in the presidential debates. We, as in Gary Johnson, as in Our America Initiative, is suing the Presidential Debate Commission, which is at the heart of this. So I want you to know that the Libertarian, and I hope to be the Libertarian nominee, and I've never said to anyone that I am going to be the Libertarian nominee. I think this is a terrific process. I really appreciate you all being out here, but I would like you to understand that your decision regarding the nominee, that nominee may well be on the presidential debate podium come November, and this is an opportunity that can make or break the Libertarian Party. This could be historical, all-time history being made politically this year. And like I say, I did that for whomever the Libertarian nominee ends up being.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for inviting us all here and for moderating. Adopt your enemy's tactics, but not their philosophy. Famous community organizers said that if you are low on resources, then you must build your revolution out of flesh and blood. That's why I spend hours every single day connecting with hundreds of American citizens on the phones, calling, telling them to register for the Libertarian Party and join me in Orlando. Now listen. Outsiders, we're outsiders. We've got to fight like underdogs. I'm the underdog in this race, but Americans love an underdog. Let's tell the story of the Libertarian Party, and let's make this underdog win. Every single time a GOP senator, a sitting Republican senator or congressman says, I will not support Trump if he's a nominee, we start tweeting and calling his office and setting up meetings because I'm already running for the general election, ladies and gentlemen. I have actually begun to create and assemble a think tank of esteemed military and defense professionals as well as economists that would give us the opportunity to have a transitional government. Do you want to win, ladies and gentlemen? Because I want to win so bad. I'm fighting so hard to carry this torch. Give me the torch, ladies and gentlemen. I will go out there and I will fight and I will bring you home a victory. I promise you that. Elect me as your presidential candidate and I promise you I will restore liberty to the United States. Thank you.
My friends, if you want a 1,000-fold increase in your membership this summer, if you want to win in November, if you want to restore the Constitution and the Republic, if you want economic prosperity and global peace, if you want increased liberties and freedoms in your lives, I am your only guy. My friends, we can be more free at last, more free at last. And I pray to God Almighty, we all are more free at last. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank each of you, and thank your political party here in Illinois. I'm so appreciative of it, and I hope that you all come to Texas for our convention. Basically, let me give you my quick summation of what I've learned about libertarians. Libertarians are not subordinate to the Republican Party, which is the party of the church. Libertarians are not subordinate to the Democratic Party, which is the party of the socialists. Libertarians are not subordinate even to the government, because we have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And I think that is the role of government should basically be to guarantee our first freedoms, the First Amendment. And if I get to appoint the Supreme Court Justice of the United States, then it will be a person who is dedicated to the First Amendment. And I believe this is so important not only to our safety and our freedom here in America, but around the world. The world looks to America. They know about freedom here, but when we betray them by partnering with dictators and oppressors around the world, we betray ourselves. So there will be a First Amendment center in every state of the Union, and there will be a translation of the First Amendment into every language, every known language on planet Earth. Thank you.
I just would like every single person here just to, kind of point at yourself and just to say, we are awesome. We are the ones who are going to win the White House in November. Because seriously, y'all are the ones here tonight. It's great. We keep doing these debates. We get to meet everybody. Every debate is a little bit different because they plan it different. They all have different things that are important to them. And that might seem like something that's just simple. What does that have to do with politics? Well, you know what? That organization, that's what wins elections. That's what wins elections. And if everyone here would just seriously realize how important the work is that you're doing and how you're giving us this platform that we can go and we can actually say, oh, we're debating in this state. Now we're going to be debating here in Illinois. Then America's going, what? There's debates going on? And that's what they're looking at. They're going, there's debates all over the country. With what? The Libertarian Party. And we even have a Libertarian Party debate on the Stossel show, right? So we just got to keep hinting at that. And if we do that, we are going to get a lot more people in. And I'd love to have your nominee. So just keep check out my website, shaunasterling.org, and just keep getting to know me. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. This has been a great success. I want to especially extend a wonderful thank you to heartfelt thank you to all of these candidates for not only coming here tonight, but continuing to travel on to other debates, other conventions, and you guys are an inspiration to all of us who have considered running for office. I do want all of you to consider that they are all looking for delegates to the national convention. And if you want to be a delegate for one of these great candidates, either come to our annual business meeting tomorrow if you're a member, or approach one of the officers of the party and we can make that arrangements. I also want to extend a thank you to Greg Bishop and Julie Borowski for doing a great job of moderating. I know that there is some ballots out there if you want to participate in a straw poll, but you don't even need the ballots if you can just find a piece of paper. If you want to turn in a vote to, eventually to me, get it to me or one of the party officers, and we'll just take a little straw poll, see how these candidates did. But I do have to say that there is, on this stage, all better candidates than anything I've seen in the Republican and Democratic parties. Okay, and then one last thing, there is our closing event of the evening after at 10:30. If you're still here, we've got some beverages from around the state that were brought, and we're going to have a competition to see which area of Illinois makes the best beer, wine, or spirits.
You're here. Libertarians and beer?
So, again, thank you all for coming. Good night.
How did I do?
Well done, Derek.
Thank you. Nice work. Thank you.
I'm going to run the back.
Thank you. What up? Ready? Hold on.
Good job trying to keep
Last time it was ducking under the table and now you're wearing water for it. Yeah, that was great. Julie, well done.
This is the guy who's video.
People say I make you think.
Great time doing it. We'd like to get our picture. That sounds good. Great. Okay. You want to write it down? Appreciate it. We shouldn't have the thing around. Michael
Yes, yes.
You can do a copy image on mine if you want. And I have the original too. If you go I put the names in there all the time.
See you.
Yeah, everything's good.
Got it?
I will. Thank you.
Which candidate do you want? Which candidate do you want first? Who's got a question? Actually, the easiest way to get I'll get Peterson. Sure, we should start.
Okay, Chris. I hope you enjoyed the show.
We'll just start talking to him. You should be filming something. We shouldn't be having like.
I'm not too fluttery. I'm just pretty straight, cold, calculating, you know.
Okay.
You gotta get that charisma thing going.
I know, you'll get it worked out one day. Yeah, I know it flies through.
Oh, no, this will be it. Oh, yeah, no. Well, no, because it ain't gonna last for the next one. Down right now. The economic collapse is on the way.
Sterling.
If I don't get into prevent it, it's going down. We're talking chaos, we're talking martial law, and so there won't be a need for me to run again. It'll be all over. It'll be all over. It's happening now.
Blue's idea, and you came up with it today. How about I come over on this side? How's that? Thank you. I'll come on, you gotta get closer. I'm not that scared. How we doing?
I'm brutally honest, I'm sorry. I'm an honest person.
It's turned on.
And because I know at this point,
Anyways,
it's different than what
I really
I'll just do some random talking.
can. I really can. You know, but I'm a nobody. But, you know, there's only... Listen, I lived in Shane for 25 years as a lawyer. Now I got to be a politician. I mean, the crosses that I bear.
We're getting some questions. We're going to start with Sean, and you're going to be in the Jenna, the girl in the Star Wars that's going to run around and grab people. So, as long as you're not leaving,
I'm going to be in Pennsylvania. Way,
I live in Illinois. Everybody has great. This is a lot of fun. Everybody here is fired up.
Okay. Now, are you running on the Republican ticket?
Yeah,
There you go. Okay, that's fine. And a lot of libertarians do that. They're calling like libertarian lights, but they use the Republican Party as a way to penetrate libertarian ideals. And I don't know.
Stand around, Michelle.
You see, my plan for my campaign,
I can get rid of it,
is to bring all Americans together. My cabinet would have Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Greens, Libertarians. I'm running for America. So there's a big difference between me.
Hello, everyone. I am Brian Lambert here with the Libertarian Party of Illinois. We hope you enjoyed the debate tonight. It was a lot of fun. We had a great time. I'm here with Shauna Sterling, who's one of the 7 candidates that you saw on the stage. How did you feel about your performance tonight?
Oh, I thought I did great. It was so much fun and so cool to be here. I loved it.
I heard you had some trouble with the traffic in Chicago.
Yes, I did get stuck in Chicago. I didn't get my rental car until about 5 p.m. So I will admit I kind of did some illegal driving.
That's fine. This is Illinois. That's what we do here. So the question I've got for you is, what topic would you have liked to have been brought up tonight? What would you have felt wasn't brought up that you wanted to talk about? Maybe something specific to your campaign, something that you're passionate about that nobody talked about tonight.
Well, I love our military, and that's why I wear my little heart. It has a flag in there. It has all 4 branches of our military. And I just would have loved to talk more about them and the awesome job that they're doing, and that I like to, when I become president of the United States, I want to get things, I want to do more for them than what Obama's doing, help them out a little bit.
That's some great positivity. It's great to hear from you. Thank you for coming out. Are you going to be around here tomorrow too for the rest of the convention?
Tomorrow I will be in Colorado debating.
Yes, that's right. There'll be one tomorrow in Colorado. Thank you very much for stopping by and for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to see you too, Chris.
Well, we got a lot of people here, and everyone had a lot of fun. There was a lot of cheering, there was some noise, there was some hoopla, and there was banging on the chairs and the walls, depending on certain candidates that were speaking. Cecil Ince, would you like to come over here? Come on in. Stand over here under the light.
Hello.
So how are you feeling tonight? How do you feel after your performance in tonight's debate?
I feel good.
You feel good? Was there anything tonight that didn't come up in the debate that you wish had come up so you could talk about? Something that's specific to your campaign, something that's specifically passionate to you?
Repeal the Federal Reserve.
That's a good point. Anything else?
Reinstate the gold and silver standard.
Anything else you want to run with?
Let's just restore liberty. Let's get the federal government out of our lives and out of our state.
A lot of people here tonight thought that you were probably the best libertarian on the stage, although you're somebody that's not necessarily a politician. That's good and that's bad. How do you think that works for you?
Well, I'm a common man, and I hopefully will get the common man's votes. I'm not rich, I'm not poor, I'm just a normal average guy, and I think that's going to play in my favor.
So what inspired you to make this run for president? Just what inspired you to jump into this? Because this is a very high-level position. You're up here on the stage, a spotlight's on, you're getting a lot of attention. Why did you decide to do this?
Well, it's very important to me that we have a libertarian presidential candidate. And since we don't have that libertarian 100-100 from the Nolan chart, I jumped in. You know, everybody is over here on the left or over here on the right or coming down a little bit. But I'm right there 100-100. My campaign platform is a mirror of the Libertarian Party platform. So that's why I decided to run, because I am the only libertarian, so be libertarian with me.
And like any other libertarian, what do we do when we want to get something done? We roll up our sleeves, we do it ourselves. What kind of questions we got? Would you support a repeal of the Hughes Amendment, which bans fully automatic rifles?
I would repeal every single law that infringes upon the Second Amendment. And that would include taking the states, counties, and municipalities to the U.S. Supreme Court and challenge their gun laws because they're unconstitutional.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for your time. We'll talk to you a little bit soon. Mr. Peterson, step on over here.
All right. The danger zone.
Yeah, it's a little bit bright. We're reflecting a lot over here. Right over there's the camera. You got us, Aaron? I'm Brian Lambert. We're here tonight. We have Austin Peterson, the Libertarian Party of Illinois State Convention tonight. Everyone saw what happened. It was beautiful. We had a great night, lots of great questions. And first, how do you feel about your performance tonight?
I think I did pretty good. I probably could have popped out some numbers, maybe some statistics for people. I like to create images in people's heads to convince them why they should vote Libertarian. I didn't get to say earlier about why it's not a wasted vote. And let me just say very quickly, it's not a wasted vote to vote for a Libertarian because you can gain ballot access. We can create a generational liberty movement in this country. If you're interested in the future of the country, vote Libertarian right now.
And one thing we understand here in Illinois is ballot access is one of the biggest struggles that we have. You did drop a bomb, I saw, on the stage at one point. I caught that. So a quick question for you. We're going to check, see if we have any online. I want to ask you, is there any topic that didn't come up tonight that you wish had come up, something that wasn't brought up that you want to talk about?
Actually, no. We covered all of the major issues, which I really wanted to talk about. One of the things that came up that I didn't get to talk about was the Iran deal. The problem with the Iran deal was not that there was a deal. The problem was how the deal was done, because a deal needs to be done through a treaty. A treaty goes through the Senate. That's how we're supposed to do it. Constitutional due process. Here's the issue, ladies and gentlemen. We need to remind the American people about the checks and balances of government. What can the president do legitimately? What can the Congress do legitimately? If anything, if I could succeed in this campaign, it's to remind the Americans about the basic civic process.
Beautiful. We got a question for you? Let's see what we've got. Who is it from? That Guy T. To what extent do you believe the government should be allowed to legitimately, and that's in quotes, infringe property rights?
Now, it's very hard for me to say that there's some legitimate infringement of property rights. I mean, I don't even like eminent domain, but Donald Trump does. He loves to infringe on property rights. So it's very hard for me to defend something like that because I always want to place the individual's needs above the state. The state is here to serve the people. We don't serve the government. So I'm not going to get involved in a conversation with saying some infringement of property rights is legitimate, because property rights should be supreme.
Excellent. That fits a lot with the theme of your campaign as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. It's good seeing you. Mr. Rhett Smith?
Yes, sir.
Good to meet you. Come on over here.
Did we get Feldman yet?
No, not yet. So how are you doing? How do you feel tonight being here? Libertarian Party of Illinois. We're here with Rhett Smith, who you just saw on the debate stage. How do you feel about your performance tonight?
Fired up. I came mostly on a bus up here from San Antonio, Texas, and I didn't come up here to play patty cake. I came up here to fight.
And fight you did. So I want to ask you, is there anything tonight that didn't come up that is passionate to you, to your campaign, that you'd like to talk about right now?
Well, I didn't get a chance to talk about it so much. The illegitimacy of candidates in the Republican and Democratic Party, Trump and Clinton, that kind of thumb their nose at the law. I'm kind of very concerned that the next president of the United States might be assassinated, or one of the candidates be assassinated. What they're doing, they're trying to uphold, they're claiming that they want to uphold the rule of law in government, when they clearly have undermined the rule of law in government. So the hypocrisy and the duplicity of those candidates needs to be questioned. I think the FBI should be called to question both of those candidates about the claims that they've made. Donald Trump seemed to be rallying with the KKK. That is a terrorist organization long associated with Christianity, and or at least the KKK says they're associated with Christianity. That's a strange form of Christianity, but we are concerned that if Donald Trump is associating with white supremacists, and if he has a bigoted view of religion, that this is a very dangerous policy for America, and the Clintons should be held to account for their transgressions.
Which we agree. Would you like to take a question from online?
Absolutely, let's do it.
We got one for you. What do we have? All right, from Jared. Oh, at Flintlocks, we have, what would you do to help expand libertarian principles besides the political process, something outside the political process?
Absolutely. I don't know if he got a chance to hear me tonight talk about the First Amendment freedoms. Those 45 words are so crucial, and I think they're the pinnacle of the American Revolution. And I think we should rekindle and reawaken that spirit that really transformed the American Revolution and was part of the American Revolution. And I think for many reasons, the Democratic and Republican parties have now suppressed those ideas of freedom and liberty. And I'm serious. We should make that global. We should make that part of our foreign policy, and it should be translated into every language on the planet.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being here in Illinois. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir? Sure. We're kind of live streaming right now. Yeah, you can talk to one of the other microphones. Hi, Dr. Mark Allen Feldman, right over this way, sir. Watch the cable. You're good. Are we good? Okay, so just this one? We got to make an announcement. Hold on one second. Lex, come over here. You're going to make an announcement with this microphone.
We've got all these tickets, and we're going to draw the winner of the raffle.
So we're going to draw the winner of a raffle in a few minutes. If anyone wants to vote in the fundraising straw poll, come up here to the front tonight. We're going to be drawing a raffle winner soon. So head up here to the front and get involved right now, guys. Now's the time. Is that good? It's $1 a ticket. $1 a ticket. You can afford that for Liberty. All right, step on in over here. So we have Dr. Mark Allen Feldman, right over there, the camera. I'm Brian with the Libertarian Party of Illinois. We've been streaming live. And I want to know, first of all, how do you feel about your performance tonight?
Oh, I was very happy. I had a lot of fun.
You enjoyed it? There was a lot of fun that people were enjoying with each other behind the table, little jokes going on, and everybody seemed very relaxed. It wasn't tense. There was no anger or bitterness from what we saw.
Well, I look at things differently. As I say, I'm a physician, not a politician. I don't see this as a competition. I'm just here to give a second opinion.
And of course, with everybody on the stage would make a much better presidential candidate than anyone the other two parties are offering right now. So I want to ask you, here tonight, was there a topic that didn't come up that you would have liked to have spoken about? Maybe something specific to your campaign, something that you're passionate about that didn't come up in tonight's debate.
Well, one thing, it didn't have to come up tonight. It'll come up at future debates. But really the question is, how are we going to do well in this election? I was a supporter of Gary Johnson in 2012. He was clearly the best of the three candidates between Obama, Romney, but he got 1% of the vote. And we saw this year that you can have all the libertarian-ish ideals of a Rand Paul. You can have all the government experience of a Jeb Bush, but even between the two of them, they're not getting support from the American people. So the question is, how are we going to get people to vote? My feeling is we need to really look primarily not at the disaffected Democrats or Republicans, but that group of nearly 100 million Americans who are sick of politics and politicians and haven't been voting for anybody. They're not concerned about wasting their votes. They've been staying home for the last few elections. Let's say, look, if you're not going to vote, why don't you not vote by really sending a message? Don't vote for a politician, vote for a libertarian.
Excellent. Would you like to take a question from online?
Sure.
Do we have one up here? So we've got Brandon at Brandon Slayton says, stance on GMOs, and how would you apply truth in advertising in relations to GMO labeling?
Well, my view of libertarianism is less about limiting government and more about empowering individuals, which means taking power away from the concentrated sources of power, the wealthy special interests and the multinational corporations. And GMOs are not something that an individual can make or a small farm. It is a concentrated multinational corporations like Monsanto, and these are companies that are developing basically addictive foods with high in caloric density, high simple carbohydrates that are contributing to the terrible obesity problem in the United States. So I think that we need to go back to more whole foods, unprocessed foods, things that are healthier for people to eat. Now, we need to do this through consciousness raising, by setting examples, and by cutting government subsidies to the sugar industry and to the agriculture department. These are the things that are supporting the GMOs. And then let people decide. I'm not in support of government regulation of GMOs. That's just causing more of the same problem.
You got something, Ward? One more question? There we go. And from Herb Hale, Herb's SRA, what is your plan for Social Security?
I told my son that I have a plan for Social Security and student debt, but it's kind of out of the box. He said, Dad, don't tell me your idea's out of the box. All your ideas are out of the box. The only way you can have an idea that's out of your box is if it was in somebody else's box.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so the plan is this. The problem with Social Security is that it's a terrible investment. It only gives 1%,
and we force people to pay, and then the other problem is it goes into the government spending and doesn't get invested into something that makes money. The problem with student debt is that the interest rate's too high. So the problem with Social Security is the interest rate's too low and it doesn't get invested in anything. The problem with student debt is that the interest rate's too high and the interest is going to banks, to the multinational banks. What we should do is offer an option for people on Social Security or who are putting money into Social Security to invest in student debt. So now student debt isn't being funded by government, it's being funded through investment by individuals. This way we could double the return on Social Security up to 2%, and we could drop the student debt down to 2%.
And people have that choice to do that.
And it's done by the free choice of Americans. It gets the government out of both sides.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming here to Illinois. It's been a pleasure. We got a few more candidates coming up. Step on over this way.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We have with us Derek, it's all a big mess of cables everywhere. We have Derek Michael Reed. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Wonderful debate.
And how'd you feel about your performance in tonight's debate?
I tend to be very cold and calculating. I may come off as rather inert, and that's just because I'm an intellectual, and I hope that people can understand that I don't have the charisma, I have the intellect, and that's the difference.
So is there any topic tonight that didn't come up that you would have liked to have talked about, maybe something specific to your campaign, something that you're passionate about?
The idea is that platitudes are nice, theory is great, but you need practical, real plans to save the nation from pending social chaos and economic ruination. I'm the only candidate that has a comprehensive plan. And I could speak to many issues, like, for example, education. Okay? It is appalling that we are enslaving our students with student loans. What we need to do is deleverage the private sector to spur economic growth. One thing that I would do is immediately forgive all student loans and transfer that back onto the state. The federal government should maintain the Department of Education, but only for grants to universities and scholarships to students to fuel understanding into vital federal interests. And so there is a comprehensive solution set. I urge all to go to my blog, totalitariandemocracy.com, take a look at my platform, my pledge, my solution set, and you will agree that I am the only candidate that can appeal to 90% of the voters and sweep all 50 states in November.
You want to take a question online really quick?
Any question is fine.
Your name's Wade, right? I've been calling you Ward all evening. All right, that guy T again. What policies would you enact to decrease the size and influential power of the Department of Education?
Well, I think I just addressed that. The idea is that the states can manage their own universities. We don't need totalitarian socialistic fascism growing in D.C. This is a republic. We must honor the republic and transfer back onto the states their abilities to fund their own universities and allow their students to attain universities. But the federal government should retain grants and scholarships, no strings attached, do not enslave our students, and downsize dramatically the Department of Education.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate you coming out to Illinois.
My pleasure. Thank you, Illinois.
Thanks a lot. Julie Borowski, please step on in under the umbrella of light. Well, this is weird. I've been talking to presidential candidates and governors, and I'm fine, and now she's here, and I'm nervous. So, how do you feel about tonight's debate?
I thought it went well. I wanted to ask some tough questions that libertarians kind of have disagreements on, so I went with abortion, immigration, and welfare.
Which is good, because those are issues that they are different now. With libertarians, they tend to always be the same. Get rid of the IRS, blah, 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 blah.
We know all that.
Yeah.
I wanted the controversial stuff.
Which is what makes it interesting. So, is there anything tonight that you didn't get to ask that you wanted to, maybe with a specific candidate or a broad statement?
Oh, goodness, I had a bunch of questions that I didn't get to.
So what was on the sheet of paper that you had?
all my questions. I wanted to get more into the NSA civil liberties issues, the drug war, about the heroin problem that we have in this country, what to do about it. Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
We should have done this for another 2-3 hours. We should have had a break and then got back to it. So, well, you know what? You're going to be our guest speaker tomorrow. We appreciate you coming out here to Illinois, and this was a lot of fun. Everybody here, because with Libertarians, we always get involved. We go out, we collect the signatures, and in Illinois, you have a big ballot access issue that's always such a struggle. But this is something where we have a blast, and everyone's fun, everyone's lively. Nobody looks like a sloth. This is wonderful. We're having a lot of fun. So, thank you so much for coming out here to Illinois.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Is there anything else you want to bring up?
No.
You looked at me like that's it?
No.
All right. We got to go find a couple more people, but thank you very much for coming out here. Aaron? Yes.
Karen needs to announce a couple things real quick.
Hold on. We have to make some announcements. So everybody out there, you just wait. Go for it, Karen.
Oh, will this go out? Hey, I'm not good at this stuff. Can they hear me out there?
Hello. Oh, there we go.
Hi. We are having our fundraiser slash straw poll. We're closing it in 5 minutes. It's $1 a ticket. Come up, and if you want to buy some tickets, and then put one in the cup of your favorite candidate, and then the other one you get to keep, and we'll draw, and you can maybe win a little cash. So we're going to close this in 5 minutes. Thank you. There you go, Brian.
Hey, we're missing a little backpack. My wife's purse has disappeared.
Has anybody seen his wife's purse? Sorry, we're streaming live right now.
Okay, my wife's purse was sitting on the table and it's disappeared.
Hold on 1 second. Jenny, you got it?
It's a little black
Jenny's on top of it. Step this way, Mr. Governor.
All right.
So here we are still, Libertarian Party of Illinois at our state convention, and I'm here with Governor Gary Johnson. Thank you so much for coming out here.
Oh yeah, it was great.
This was a lot of fun. So how did you feel about your performance tonight?
Well, I have to applaud everybody tonight. I think a good presentation was made of libertarian politics, and as I like to point out, I think that the Libertarian nominee has a real opportunity to potentially be in the national debates.
And we're excited about that because even here in Illinois, we've seen Libertarians get so much attention. We used to get about 1% every election, if that, and suddenly we're getting 3, 4, 4.8 in the last one. And it's just growing from there when more people see that. So is there anything that came up that didn't come up in tonight's debate that you wish you could have talked about, a question that wasn't asked, something maybe specific to your campaign?
No, I think it was very thorough, and really, Libertarians got to state what it is that they are and the differences that obviously exist with the other two parties. I think that the Republican candidate has to go, the Republican nominee has to go out and appeal to 30% of the far right. I think the Democrat nominee has to go out and appeal to 30% of the far left. When 50% of Americans declare themselves now as independent, what you end up with the two major parties is a solid 30% representation of the electorate. Well, the vast majority of people in this country, I believe, are libertarian. It's just that they don't know it.
Yeah, we believe that too. Would you mind taking a question online?
Absolutely.
Let's see what we've got. Brandon, we have, ask Gary, how can we help with the lawsuit that you filed?
Well, it still is an issue of money. In other words, we're in the discovery phase, so if you can get online and donate a few bucks, that will make a difference. I'd like to say that Bruce Fine has filed this lawsuit. Bruce Fine's claim to fame is that he brought Nixon down in Watergate. Bruce Fine says that this presidential lawsuit is the biggest thing that he has done in his life. Well, when you compare that to bringing Nixon down in Watergate, that's very significant. That's really a way to change politics in America, and that's what Bruce says. We didn't go to Bruce and say we wanted to file this lawsuit. He came to us basically, and will you be able to fund it? And we raised money, so it is still an issue of raising money for the discovery phase of this.
And that money would be for Our America?
Well, that would be going directly to the lawsuit, essentially, because of the costs involved. Now, Bruce is going to do this regardless of what it ends up costing, but contributions still are really necessary to make sure that we dot the I's and cross the T's on this.
Gotcha. Do we have another question lined up? Maybe. Hold on one second. We have a similar issue here in Illinois. We just had our controller candidate, Claire Ball, the only accountant on the ballot for the accounting job of control. It's shocking. Her name was on a lawsuit along with Scott Schluter because medical marijuana dispensaries and growers here in Illinois were not allowed to make political campaign contributions. Well, who would they most likely contribute to here? They like the Libertarians, and they're prevented from doing so. So there's a lawsuit, and we had people come to us, said, hey, we want to push this. This is a freedom of speech issue, and we're running with it. As long as the donations come into the group, they take care of it.
Unbelievable.
And it's very helpful when everyone comes together for these. All right, that guy T, should Liberty supporters, why is that in quotes, continue to settle and vote for neocon repubs again, or is it time to put principle over winning? This is written for you.
Well, it's time to vote for the candidate that you believe in as opposed to the lesser of two evils. That's what we've been doing. I think that if the Libertarian presidential candidate doesn't make a breakthrough this cycle, I don't know what it'll take.
Well, it'll take a lot because it's always an uphill battle. Thank you very much for coming here to Illinois. This is a fun night tonight.
Thank you, guys.
So we have someone over here, Mr. Mark Rutherford. You would like to step over here? I haven't had a chance to meet you tonight, so...
Brian, I'm glad to meet you here. So, hey, how are you doing?
How are you doing?
Doing well. Mark Rutherford. I'm running for a Libertarian National Committee chair. Glad to be in Illinois. I'm from Indianapolis. Just a really good outing, a great presidential debate, lots and lots of people. I noticed that as I'm going around the country now that the presidential debate's getting a lot of people excited and they're showing up to the conventions. It's nice to see.
So you didn't have that far of a drive to come over then from Indiana. That's good. And you didn't have to go through Chicago to get over here either.
No. It is a good drive. 3 hours, not too bad. Do it all the time. I've got a good friend who drives here all back and forth. Used to be a DJ out here. So it's a good place, So
what did you think about the debate tonight?
I liked the debate. I thought the one thing, and somebody had mentioned that earlier about the quality of the candidates. I can remember back in 2000, 1996, where we had a couple of good candidates, but we had a lot of people who weren't nearly as good as the people we have here.
I agree, and it makes it very exciting.
It makes it very exciting. So we now have, everybody has their preferences, but we've now got 7, 8, 9 people who are all articulate, have their views, are talking. One thing that I like about it is this is how inclusive we are. You know, there are favorites here. There are people who are doing the horse racing and the polling, etc. But everybody has a chance to talk, and I think that's wonderful and it's great.
And everybody here enjoys the mix of different people because some people may have 1 or 2 candidates they like, but there's always something in there that makes it a big bag of information that you can pick from different people, and that's what makes it fun. We like this debate. We like the healthy debate. So what is it that you're running for here? You want to tell people that are streaming in?
Right. I'm running for Libertarian National Committee chairman. That'll be in Orlando, Memorial Day weekend at the convention, and I'm running on themes that I'm effective. I've been the head of at least 13 different organizations over my lifetime. I'm currently the chairman of the Indiana Public Defender Commission, former vice chair of the National Party, state chair for 7 years of my state, Indiana. Just lots of things like that. This is what I'm good at. This is what I can do. And the party right now needs to become a national party. It needs to be effective. It needs to be inclusive of everybody who's within the world's smallest quiz political quadrant. And that's what I'm running on. We're having a great time right now, and we need to grow our national office and our infrastructure among the affiliates and the locals to that level. I've got the background to do it, and that's what I intend to do.
Well, that's good to hear, because even in Illinois, I'm the chair of a local chapter up in DuPage County. That's hard to run. On a state, that's bigger and harder to run, and of course, on the national level, that takes a lot of experience. What kind of experience do you have in this kind of field specifically that you think you can bring to the position?
Oh my goodness! I mean, running the Indiana Public Defender Commission, I have legislators, Republican and Democrat, on the commission. I've got all types of different people who are appointed by the Republican governor, the Supreme Court of Indiana. I was appointed as a Libertarian by the Republican governor because he had run out of spots for Republicans. By law, he could not appoint another Republican. So I'm used to dealing with all types of different people to get things done. And it's amazing that when you're on a commission, even though you can't make it libertarian completely because of who you're dealing with, you've got to find common ground. It's a lot more libertarian because I'm on it than if I was not on it, and I'm chairman. It's a very effective position to have. But my background with all the organizations, I'm on boards of national boards, Advocates for Self-Government, for example. I've got the experience to do it and step into it.
No, that's good. Thank you very much for coming out here to Illinois. It was great talking to you, great getting to meet you.
Nice talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to do this. Do you want to do it? You want to do the announcer?
You want me? What do I got to? All right, I guess I'm doing something. I have no idea what this is, guys.
Anybody who bought a ticket
Guys, I'm Brian Lambert here with the Libertarian Party of Illinois. Thank you very much for tuning in, checking out the debate, talking with the candidates. We had a great time. People here are lively. I'd love to go on all night long if I could, but, well, we got a lot of other things we got to do, and I got to put this microphone down at some point. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. Beautiful.